and exaggeration and over-promising, and to tell you the truth, unfortunately, a fair amount of outright fraud in that space, which I guess is going to be true anytime you have all those dollars sloshing around. But anyway, so tokenizing a security it's really just at its most basic form. It's just about how you keep track of the security. Like, do you keep track of it on a little piece of paper by writing a chart? Bob owns 3 shares, Ted owns 9 shares. Do you keep track of it in an Excel spreadsheet? Do you keep track of it in a SQL database? Or do you keep track of it on the blockchain? And if you keep track of it on a blockchain, then we call it tokenized. Now, once we tokenize a security, we can do a lot of things with it. To answer your question, the most important thing is we can keep track of it. We have a foolproof, subject to hacking, of course, we have a foolproof method for keeping track of that security. So that's a super important thing. Second, and kind of a corollary of the first, is it makes it easier to have an exchange. It makes it easier to buy and have secondary sales of that security because it's so easy and foolproof to keep track of. And then we can start doing stuff with it because it's an electronic, it's a digital asset, and we can attach to that digital asset all kinds of attributes. Our token that represents a share of stock in the company can have the financial statements of the company attached, or it can have photographs of the project attached, or it can automatically receive the security itself in your digital wallet can have the functionality to receive dividends, for example. So we can attach all kinds of digital attributes to the security once it is tokenized. Once it's digitized and kept track of on a blockchain, we can do all these cool things with it. Now, I'll just add, and it still has to be valuable. We don't buy a security because it's cool, right? We don't buy a Tesla because it's cool. If Tesla were just cool, but it didn't get you from point A to point B, we wouldn't buy it. So that's kind of where the distinction between hype and reality in the blockchain world comes in. You never want to buy a security merely because it's cool, because it's tokenized, because you'd much rather have a really boring security that's actually going to go up in value.
Well, correct. And then these functionalities that you're talking about, these attachments to the token, is that what people refer to as smart contracts? Is that the term that they use?
Sort of. Everything that happens on a blockchain is done through what are called smart contracts, which are really just algorithms that say, if X happens, then we do Y. So, for example, if once someone clicks a button, then a dividend gets paid automatically with no further human intervention. That's the idea of a smart contract. It's not really a contract. It's just a little computer program that executes automatically. It's what it's like. It's like when the temperature in your house goes down to a certain level and your heating system clicks on. That's kind of a smart contract.
Kind of like a vending machine where you put a quarter in and something comes out.
And something comes out. Yeah.
And you know what it is that you want to come out because you've seen pictures or something in the form of a smart contract that tells you when you do this, this is what's going to happen. So push the button and see what goes on.
Yes, and the key being with no need for human intervention. So I deposit my cash, shares are delivered to me. So it's not possible technologically for the person who owns the shares to not deliver them to me. They don't have that power because it is built into the technology. It's built into the smart contract that once payment is made, I get something for it.
Right. And that sounds like a double-edged sword, you think?
It is. Yes, it is. And you don't technology is great except when it isn't. And
yes, right.
you last words for sure.
You don't want you don't want very complicated smart contracts because you want to be able to press pause, to tell you the truth.
You can tell how Mark, that you're on the East Coast and we're on the West Coast, because in that last example that you used about the heater, we probably would have used that example.
The air conditioner. There you go.
But
well, and if you're trying to eliminate human intervention in your transactions through blockchain and cryptocurrencies, well, you've eliminated that if you make it too complicated where you need somebody to explain it to you. Or is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I mean, now we're delving further into the blockchain world, but one of the goals, sort of a philosophical goal of the blockchain, is to decentralize, to take things out of the hands of middlemen and sort of just make it all happen automatically. You sometimes hear the term trustless systems, meaning a system in which nobody has to trust anybody else because it all just happens automatically. And that's part of what smart contracts are about, because, look, you don't have to trust that, the person's going to deliver the shares of stock to you because there's a smart contract, and once you pay for them, they are delivered automatically, and, even if the person delivering them is a bad person, it doesn't matter because the smart contract will take care of it. So that's one of the goals, and now when that philosophy hits the real world, we actually find that there are a lot of systems where we do want a discretionary central authority. The world is a lot more complicated. The legal world and the world generally is a lot more complicated than a simple philosophy. So there's this tension. In fact, it's a tension built into the regulatory apparatus, because the people at the very extreme end of the blockchain sort of ideology say, well, government shouldn't have the right to control what people do, and blockchain is about taking back control, say, from the Federal Reserve or from the banking system, and we should be able to do these things without government interference, and the world doesn't work that way, and it just doesn't, and then you find that some of those folks who wanted to act without government interference using Bitcoin were actually, selling heroin on Silk Road. So,
right.
And you say, oh, darn, that's not what we meant. So it all gets quite complicated.
There will always
be no question
who will take the opportunity on a good thing, whether it's crowdfunding or blockchain or what, to try as hard as they can to turn it into an opportunity to defraud somebody, to take advantage and manipulate people, just like the people trying to create the process and the platform for something good. There's always going to be somebody coming after trying to take advantage of it. It's not.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say that in the crowdfunding world, crowdfunding as such, Jobs Act stuff, contrary to initial expectations, there has actually been almost zero fraud.
Wow.
Which has been fantastic. That Congress was concerned that all these bad people were going to come into the market and, steal money from widows and orphans. And it has been a remarkably clean industry. Knock on wood.
Is there a lot of SEC regulations concerning crowdfunding and like Regulation A and the Jobs Act and that? Is there the same amount of regulation going on with the two different platforms?
Well, this is the thing. There are three different kinds of crowdfunding, and the answer is different for all three. Title II, which is accredited investors only, has almost no regulation. It is wild, wild west because the theory is today and always has been that accredited investors can protect themselves. So no SEC regulation there to speak of. In Title III, which is the tiny sort of small companies raising small amounts of money online, there is actually a lot of regulation. Those securities can only be sold through entities that are registered with the SEC and with FINRA. So a lot of regulation there. And then Regulation A is very similar to a IPO, a full public offering. So the SEC does take a very careful look at every Regulation A offering. So it varies from type to type, but so far we really haven't seen any fraud in any of them.
That's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, let's hope it stays that way. So, Mark, let's close this out just by one more question. If I'm listening to this podcast, let's say I'm a business owner, I want to start crowdfunding, I may want to do a token or whatever, and I obviously have to get my team together. At what point do they usually contact you as a lawyer? What do they have to do before they contact you? Should they contact you right from the start to get this thing going?
Well, when a business owner decides that he or she would like to raise money, that's the point to start thinking about lawyers, because when you raise money, when you raise money from investors, you're going to be subject to a whole bunch of laws, the securities laws. So that's a good point to contact someone like me right in the beginning. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll start doing a lot of work together right away, but you will at least understand what the alternatives are, what's available, what you can do and what you can't do, which means you won't waste a lot of time going off in a wrong direction. So that's really, as soon as you decide you want to raise money, that's the time to start talking with lawyers.
Great. So see that we saved everyone's first step. Everybody listening to the podcast right now, they know to contact Mark here. Mark, how do people get a hold of you? Is it a phone number, website, or what's the best way?
Well, lots of different ways. The best way probably, and you can learn a lot of stuff before you even have to talk to me, is to go to my blog. And I'm going to spell my blog, and it's a little hard to spell. So this is how it goes. It's www, and then crowdfund, that's easy to spell, crowdfund, all one word, and then attny.com, so sort of an abbreviation for attorney, crowdfundattny.com. That's my blog. All my contact information is there, a link to my email. That'll be plenty.
Great. Well, I got to tell you, I really thank you for all this information that you're giving us today. This is really great. Well, a really good show. I hope you become a friend of the show and come on many times, and we'll update the world with the happenings there. Everybody should go to that blog for sure, because I've been there myself. And there'll be a link in the Mappable USA right up on this podcast, so people can go to that link and go directly to your blog and read your articles. So it's some pretty good stuff there. I know you update it consistently, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't update it consistently enough, but I've written so many, like hundreds of articles on it that Hopefully everyone will find something interesting. But I really appreciate